the near-death experience didn't come right away, but I started doing more spirituality things. I had some plant medicine journeys, which changed my life. I don't we don't pass one car. The whole time we are driving up this, there's not a single car. I passed one other ATV and they had a helmet and goggles on. And it was a man and a woman, and the guy was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm going to the top to see the waterfall." And he's like, "You are one brave soul. You are one brave soul." And I'm like, "Am I close? Am I close to the top?" And he's like, "Yeah." And the woman's like, "No, no."
No, no.
And I'm like,
I want to welcome everybody back to another episode of The Soul Inspired. I have Amanda Russo with me. She's had a near-death experience and a spiritual experience as well we're going to talk about. First of all, thanks, Amanda, for being on the show here today. I really appreciate you taking the time.
thank you for having me.
So I say this at the beginning of each episode. Many people probably are sick of me saying this, but I don't go into deep detail about what your experience was. So I'm really excited to find out a little bit more about you, and I'm sure my audience will be as well. So the first question I always start with, and you likely been asked this if you spoke with anybody else in any previous podcast, but if you think about the first experience that you've had, so the first main spiritual experience, it doesn't have to be your near-death experience, but an experience that kind of set you on the path that you're on now. If you can think of that, and you can think of who you were before that, who was Amanda before that experience?
So I would say my first spiritual experience likely was when I first got involved with fitness, which might not seem spiritual on the outside, but it really was for me. And who I was before that was someone who just kind of just did whatever. I just let whatever come at me. I didn't really pay attention to the world, honestly. I kind of just did whatever. I went about my day. I went to work. I would do the mundane things, but like the day would end and I couldn't tell you what what transpired outside of went to work and 24 hours passed, but I don't know.
Yep.
And it really like opened me up and opened my eyes, honestly.
So getting into fitness is what kind of got you onto a different path, just getting involved with fitness.
Yeah.
Okay. And was there something that got you hooked into that? Like, what was the first reason why you pushed yourself to get into fitness in the first place?
So I grew up, I was overweight for most of my life. I was super heavy all of my childhood. And then at one point in high school, I developed an eating disorder, lost weight from that, got involved with the gym, but not in a healthy way, just to lose weight, just to look different. Then that didn't stick. And then I was involved in a pretty toxic relationship. And towards the end of that, we still lived together. And I got involved in fitness because I was sick of the way my whole life was. I walked up 3 flights of stairs and I could barely breathe. And I was like, I'm done with this. And just everything shifted for me. I was like, I'm done with this negative relationship. It's not working. He's cheated on me multiple times. I'm over it. I'm done. It was a random Thanksgiving morning and I was like, I'm done. And everything changed. I started a new job. I left the relationship. I joined the gym and my whole life slowly started to change from there.
Wow. Okay. So I can see why you see it as a spiritual change, because you literally went from being someone who seemed, and I'm not meaning to say this, but it seemed like you had maybe some self-esteem issues going on. I would assume if you're
Yep.
in a toxic relationship that wasn't treating you right, and you're somebody who's not feeling your best when you look in the mirror. So going and finding yourself is what you're doing, and that can be a spiritual experience. I totally get that. So that changed your life. Okay, so you go
Yeah.
you go into that road of things, and you're bettering your life. It's, I mean, so far this story sounds fantastic. I don't know where do things kind of go crazy? I don't know, but it seems like at some point you have either what, a spiritual experience or your near death experience. What comes first? What was the first thing you experienced?
So I've had a few spiritual experiences since then. Um, After I got involved in fitness, I my spirituality slowly started opening up more. Now, I had done yoga previously back in high school, but it was never the spiritual side of yoga. I just did yoga. So I preface that because a lot of people hear yoga and you think, oh, it's mindful, it's spirituality with yoga, only if you do it the right way. You can go to yoga and it does not necessarily, it's not always spiritual. So I slowly just started opening my eyes post getting involved with fitness and realizing the world around me, honestly. I it was probably about a year and a half after I got involved in fitness that I started getting involved in meditating. I started meditating. I did a meditation workshop and just started becoming more mindful and more aware of like my surroundings, more aware of my breath. And the near death experience didn't come right away, but I started doing more spirituality things. I had some plant medicine journeys, which changed my life. I did ayahuasca.
Wow.
Um, yeah, it that opened my eyes a lot. I had some plant medicine journeys with magic mushrooms as well, and I did breathwork at the ayahuasca ceremony for the first time, and I loved it. I was like, wow, this is really powerful. It was a little challenging. So I did post ayahuasca and post this breathwork. I was like, this is a lot for me. I'm like taking a step back because I dove head first in and this was a lot. So I didn't do any plant medicine, didn't do anything too crazy like that for a couple months. Then a good friend of mine had started talking to me about something called breathwork detox. And she's like, if you love yoga, you've got to try breathwork detox. I'm thinking, I know how to breathe. Okay. So I didn't say that to her, but I'm like, yeah, I'll try it sometime. Now she had mentioned it on and off. Then she was offering sessions. One day rolled around. It was actually the anniversary of my grandma's passing. And I was like, I just don't want to sit home by myself, wallow in my pity. She was hosting a breathwork detox session. You know what? I'm going to go. I've been brushing this off for months. I'm going to go now. I went and it transformed so much of my life. I was finally able to look at my grief in a whole different light. And I say I transformed my grief to gratitude because I looked at every aspect of my life with my grandma, my relationship with her in a whole different aspect. Now, I was super close with her growing up. She raised me. I lived with her my whole life up until she passed away. So her passing was a big thing for me. So being able to look at that differently, I was blown away. It's like I need to do more of this breathwork detox shit. I don't even know what this is, but I need to do more of it. Went back a week later and she's like, oh my gosh, Amanda, you're back again. I'm like, I love this. Yeah, I had another really transformative experience. And I just felt so much more confident, so much more able to be myself, be able to express myself. She's like, Amanda, you got to get certified. It's like, get certified in what? What does that even mean? And she's like, you got to get certified in breathwork detox. I'm like, maybe I do. So I did some research. I spoke to the woman who I would have to schedule this with, found out all about it. I'm like, okay. I eventually signed up, was going to Utah to get certified in breathwork detox. Now, this was also going to be my first time flying on a plane by myself. So I'm like, I've got to make the most of this. I'm going to Utah for a week. Like, I can't just, only get certified in breathwork detox. I've got to go all out. Now, I love water, waterfalls, oceans, any type of water. Like, it's my thing. So I was like, you know what? I'm getting my first ever rental car by myself. This is gonna be a thing. I'm gonna find a great waterfall I'm gonna go to. So I started doing some research, found this beautiful waterfall. Now it says online, they recommend an ATV or a truck. Okay. So I'm like, maybe I shouldn't use just this car. I need an SUV. Call the rental company. I'm like, I need an SUV that like I can, it's more rugged, whatever. Like, we can't give you an SUV. We don't have one. I'm like, fine, I need to cancel this because I need an SUV. I call a different company. I'm able to get the SUV. Great. I have no clue what I am getting myself into, but I'm going some waterfall. That's all I know. I'm going to Utah. I'm going to learn how to breathe. I'm going to teach people how to breathe, and I'm going to some waterfall. That's what I know.
Yeah.
Everyone who was anybody says, Mandy, you probably shouldn't go up this waterfall by yourself. Like, it says you need an ATV. Like, I'm like, it'll be fine. Like, what's the worst that can happen? Like, what's the worst thing that can happen? Now, even my boss is like, Mandy, you shouldn't be doing this. I'm like, listen, it's fine. My mom, anyone who was anybody told me they did not think I should do this. But I'm the type of person that if I get something in my head, it does not matter if I go into it kicking and screaming, I'm going to do it. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. So it's set in my head. And even one of the attorneys, now I'm a paralegal, one of the attorneys I worked with at the time was like, worst case scenario, if you have AAA, it'll just take them about 10 hours to get you down from the top of there. I'm like, you know what? That's the worst case. I don't care. Okay, we're doing this. Okay. So I arrived to this training early because I knew I was going to spend a whole day going up this waterfall. So I arrived early. I met two women who were also getting certified in breathwork detox like I was. And they were like, Amanda, this is kind of crazy. I'm like, no, it's not. Look at these beautiful views. Like, how do you get to the top of this? I don't know. We're going to find out. One of the women says to me, Amanda, like, I don't know if you should be doing this. I'm like, you should come with me. Like, this will be so much fun. Well, I wanted both of these women to go with me. One of them refused up and down all around. One of them told me she would go with me, and we ventured out and we were going to this waterfall. Now, it took us an hour and a half to drive there from where we were staying. And then when I got there, I thought I was going to be able to hike up this like mountain thing. That was not the case at all.
Oh, no.
Now, I don't know and now I've never experienced this in my life. And now I've talked to people, no one's heard this either. Don't know if you have, but my card, like the GPS on my iPhone, told me to stop the vehicle and to put the vehicle in park at one point. And I'm like, I can't be doing that. Like, we still got to go. I don't see no water, so I can't stop the car. I say to my friend, I'm like, should we stop? And she's like, I was like, we should walk. She's like, it's going to take us all day to walk. I don't think we can walk from here. I'm like, so do I keep going? She's like, you have to keep going. Okay. I lose cell phone reception. She loses cell phone reception. We've got no connection. Now I am driving, and it is almost completely straight up that I am driving up
Wow.
this mountain. Yes. And I'm scared. Now I'm in a rental SUV. It's not my car. I've never rented a car in my life. I'm 26 years old. Rented this car for the first time in my life. And it's very spiky, like on the bottom of it. So you hear things cracking and breaking the whole time I'm going up. The whole time I'm going up. And now I can see out the side. I make one wrong turn, this whole thing is flipping over. And we are going off this cliff, and I'm gonna kill myself and this woman that I barely know. And yeah, I can tell by your face you're looking.
Wow. Yeah, no, this is crazy. I feel like somebody should be rock climbing up this thing, not driving a vehicle up it. That's what it sounds like to me. That's what I see. That's what I hear in my head. That's
Yeah,
what I see. Yeah.
it
Okay.
and I don't we don't pass one car. The whole time we are driving up this, there's not a single car. I passed one other ATV, and they had a helmet and goggles on. And it was a man and a woman, and the guy was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm going to the top to see the waterfall." And he's like, You are one brave soul. You are one brave soul. And I'm like, am I close? Am I close to the top? And he's like, yeah. And the woman's like, no, no.
No, no.
And I'm like,
Always trust the woman.
oh my God.
In a situation like that, I don't care. Like anything when it comes to like a high risk type stuff, you trust the woman. You got to do it in those points.
I I was very I really thought we should tone back around. And I even said that to this woman I was with at one point, and she was like, that's up to you, but I really think we're gonna go off the cliff if you try to do a 3-point tone. And I was like, oh my God, do I keep going up or do
Right.
I? And I
Yeah.
was literally, she's like, whatever you want to do, it's fine. And I'm like, okay,
Wow.
no pressure, no pressure whatsoever. I might kill us both, but no pressure.
Wow.
Whatever I want to do.
Good for her for having confidence that you weren't going to be taking you both to the heavens in those moments. So, yeah.
Yeah. And it was not easy. It was, I don't even know. It's some miracle, honestly, that we somehow made it to the top of this. Like, it
So you
took,
made it to the top. You made it to the
we
top.
did, we
Okay.
did. Now, the car was a mess by the time we made it to the top. It took, oh my God,
Wow.
it was this white SUV and it was so brown because this was this dirt road that I was driving up. There were rocks underneath it. It was crazy. We get to the top. I'm like so relieved, ready to like throw a party. Now we see the waterfall. It's great. Okay. I think I'm going to move the SUV out of the way. Why I decided to move the SUV once we were at the top, I don't know. I should not have moved the SUV because somehow, and to this day, I still have no idea how, but I ended up over some huge boulder. It was like this big boulder rock to the point where the car was off of the ground. Two of the wheels were off of the ground because it
Ooh.
was over this big rock boulder thing. Yes. And I was like, how what the do I do? How do I move this vehicle? Like, okay, well, I go to the gym and I work out. So here I think I'm gonna go over and move this boulder. Now, this it was a huge boulder. It weighed. There was no way I, in my right mind, was ever gonna move this. But I went over there thinking I was gonna move this. My friend was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, I can't move this. So I get in the car, I try to back up, I try to go forward. It's not moving. The car is not moving because there are two wheels on the passenger side, the front and the back passenger side are off the ground. So this car is not going nowhere. Okay. So now I'm like, there's different people up here. I'm like, okay, I gotta say something to one of these men because otherwise I'm gonna be stuck up here forever with this rental SUV. So I walk over to some guy sitting like on the ledge of the waterfall, and I'm like, I have a question for you. And he's like, yeah, can I help you? And I'm like, I really hope you can. So you see that SUV over there? And I was like, it's partially off the ground. He's like, how did you do that? Well, I have no idea, but it won't go forward and it won't go backwards, and I can't move this boulder thing. And I don't know if you are able to help me because otherwise I don't know what to do. And he's like, oh my God, hang on a second. Okay. He gets his son, who's younger than me. I don't know how he thinks this 14-year-old is going to help save the day. But him and his 14-year-old son come over and he's like, oh my gosh. So we just have to move this boulder thing. I'm like, yeah, I don't know how you think you're going to move that. Okay. Then a different guy sees us. He's like, what's going on here? And then he sees the guy. What the hell did you do? Bro, I don't know what I did. I have no idea how I ended up over this boulder. I just know I need to somehow get off of this. All these guys are getting. Do you mind if I get in and see if I can move it? By all means, because otherwise I'm stranded. So you want to get in the car and see if you can move it? Go for it. These two different guys try. They can't do. Different guy with an ATV comes over and says, why would you drive an SUV up here? I'm like,
Yeah.
listen, they said online I shouldn't be, that I either needed an ATV or a truck. He's like, and this is neither. And I'm like, well, this was the closest thing I had to either. So here we are. And he's like, hang on a second. He's like, what we have to do is we have to pull this SUV off of it because you're not going to be able to move the boulder. So you need to pull the SUV. And I'm like, how the hell, how are we going to do this? So he gets this rope like thing and he attaches it to the bottom of my SUV and attaches the other side to his ATV. Then one guy gets in the SUV. Then you've got one guy in the ATV and he's turning the wheel in the SUV and he's backing up and he pulls this SUV with this rope off of this boulder.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
It was insane. It took hours. It took hours and I was on top of this boulder and it was insane.
Where was your friend at this time?
She was there. No, she was there taking videos.
Taking videos. Nice. Nice.
I got plenty of videos if you ever want to see.
Oh my goodness.
This ATV taking.
Wow.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So you get, okay, so let me just jump in for a second. So you go up. Sounds like something out of a cartoon or like a movie, you know what I mean? Like I'm picturing this all. You're really good at describing how this happened. And I can see why your friend at the time that you thought about canceling it and going back down thought you're gonna die if you turn around. Because like how would you do a 3-point turn? And then the question is, how did you get down? Did you just like go straight down? Like that would be, yeah, that is scary. That is scary to go down too.
I didn't want to go down. I was really nervous about going down because I was like, I felt like something was breaking each time I went up because you would hear a crack, you'd hear a noise, and I'm like, oh my God, they'll go into transmission. Oh, they'll go something. Who knows?
Right.
But I just broke something else on that.
Right.
And I was telling the guys, I was like, I'm even more nervous to bring this back down now. Like the tires are, it's even in worse shape than it was before. Like you just had 2 tires off of the ground. Then one guy says to me, well, the only way to, he goes, all you can do is go back down. And I'm like, dude, he goes, your other option is to stay up here. And I'm like, I guess that is true. I guess that is true. And he's like, just keep going down. He goes, what's the worst that can happen? You flip over? I'm like, yes. I guess that is the worst that can happen.
That would be bad. Then you'd be rolling down a very steep hill with an SUV. Wow.
Yeah. But they showed me, apparently there was a certain way to like a certain, I don't even know what it was, but a certain like mode to put the car in to make it safer to go down, apparently. Right. No clue.
Kind of probably a little bit of a brake system happening as you're kind of moving down. Right.
Yes.
Right.
Wow. It was wild. So it took us an hour and a half to drive to the location. Then it took me about an hour and 15 minutes to get to the top. And then navigating that whole situation was probably 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And then it took over an hour to get back down. And now, as we slowly started to go back down, the code notified me that we were low on tire pressure, and the tire pressure started going down and down and down. Then I reached the point where it told me there was zero RPM in the tire pressure. And I'm like, Trisha, what do I do? There's like nothing left in the tire. And she's like, just keep going, because what are you going to do? You just stop like halfway down? Hopefully gravity will get you down. And I'm like, okay. So I just kept going and then we got to the bottom, thankfully, barely got to the bottom. And this tire literally fell off of the car, but once we got to the very bottom. Yeah, it completely fell off. Thankfully, there was a couple at the bottom. And I was like, I don't know if you know how to change a tire, but I just destroyed the tire on this SUV. And the guy was like, do you have a spare? And I was like, honestly, I don't even know. It's a rental car, I'm assuming, but I haven't even checked. I probably should have checked that before I went up this mountain, but I didn't check that. So, and he's like, I'll take a look. There was a spare, thankfully. This very generous man changed this tire for me,
Wow.
and then I was back on my way. But it was a full day process.
Wow. And this was a rental vehicle. Did you have good insurance on that?
So fun fact, I didn't have any insurance on the vehicle, but
Oh my
get what?
Lord.
No, get this. Somehow, somebody was looking out for me because when I went to return the SUV, I played dumb because I had never rented a car before. So I saw a sign like outside that you could just put keys in this box. So I went to the front desk to the guy and I'm like, I saw a sign out there that mentioned that I could just put my keys in the bin, but I've never had a rental car before. And I just want to make sure I hand the keys like where I'm supposed to. And he's like, oh, I can take them. And I was like, okay, you need my name? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, Manders Russo. And he's like, okay, you're all set. He didn't look at the car with me. I left as quick as I could. And I am sure as soon as they noticed that I kind of destroyed this thing, they realized they should have looked at it with me.
Wow.
Yeah.
What
Because
was
they
the
looked at it before when I first got it, but they didn't check it out when I returned it.
what was the main reason you wanted to be at the top of that mountain again? Or the top of the waterfall? What was the main reason? What were you going there for? To find yourself, find spirituality? What were you doing up there?
I wanted to see water.
So you want okay, so you went up there to see the water. You want to do some breath work at the top of the waterfall. Is that is that what it was?
I,
I
I,
mean,
I wasn't doing I went to Utah for breath work, but I wasn't doing breath work at the top of the waterfall. I wanted to see something really cool in Utah, some type of water, and this was the water I was going to see.
wow. That is an experience. So that is that your near death experience?
Yes.
Yeah, that is a near death. It's different kind of near death experience than the I'm used to talking to. I really needed to hear this today. This is fascinating type of near death experience because you were in life. You didn't actually die or anything, but you were playing chicken with life.
It was
Um,
the one time in my life where I can genuinely say I actually thought I was going to die.
mhm. Did you
Like
have
in the midst of it.
Yeah, did you have any moments like that where you were just like, okay, this actually could be the end? And what do I do if that is? Or were you just trying your best to keep
No, it
pushing
was. It
life?
was because I even recorded some videos on my Snapchat actually like if you don't hear from me again, you know what? and
Oh my God. So you're like saying your goodbyes while you're going up a hill.
it was funny too because I
That's
had
wild.
no connection at the time. So these videos posted hours later and if something would have actually happened to me, it would have just been me speaking like from the grave basically.
This is really fascinating. So, for my general audience, they're used to a lot of my podcast episodes being on literally people who've died, had experiences in the afterlife, and come back. This is a different kind of near death experience. As soon as you started explaining what was going on, and I'm actually waiting for you to die at that point. I'm like, okay, when does, because like it sounds really bad. The fact that you got up there, then got it stuck on a boulder, like feeling this like teeter totter type situation, and then having to get down. I don't even know, I think I would have been at a point where you definitely are an interesting person because I think if I got up there, I would have probably been like, okay, there's got to be a better way down. There's got to be something I can do. I would have checked into that. You know what I mean? I would have been like, hey, calling people, like, what should I do? Like, maybe it's not good to get this vehicle down, but you're just like, yeah, let's go. Let's see what happens. We'll take another chance. We flip forward, then it's done. That's wild. That is wild. Okay. So,
Yeah.
wow. So I'm gonna jump in a few other directions. So this was an experience you had, which is definitely a near death experience, but it's based off a life event, which is incredible. You're my first to be like that. So that's really neat. Um, you did ayahuasca, you said. I'm gonna jump in that direction for 2 seconds because I went down that path where I was looking at ayahuasca and seeing what it was, all about when I was getting to, down my own spiritual journey and things like that. And I started watching people's testimonies and they would express what happened, like the event in graphic detail sometimes. And I'm like, nope. I'll wait either for the end of my life to experience that if I really need it, or if I'm really in need of some kind of intervention spiritually, I would maybe do it. And a lot of there's probably a lot of my listeners that have done this. But when you did the ayahuasca, did your reality shift at all?
Yes. Yes. I realized a lot of things, and that I just didn't want to be living how I was living. I quit my job very shortly after ayahuasca.
Oh, wow. So that
Yep.
made you change things right away. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And did you have any like experience with it? Were you seeing things or having any visuals?
So I didn't have a lot of visuals. It more so for me. Now everybody's different with what they experience, and
Right.
I've only done it once. I've also heard each time you do it, it's a different experience as well. But every single experience I have ever had in my life, small, big, good, bad, I thought about it all. Things I didn't even remember that had happened came to my mind. I journaled probably 120 pages worth of notes, worth of crap just about life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So
So
everything kind of came flying back to you once you were okay. Yeah.
decisions I made, why I made this decision, why I didn't do this, oh yeah, how I
Wow.
looked at things from this perspective, why I shouldn't have looked at it from this perspective, how to see things in different areas. Like if someone had done something in my life that I didn't necessarily agree with, my mind now thought of how they might have been thinking of it when they did whatever they did.
Hmm.
Like my mind thought about everything. It did not stop. It did not stop. And like a lot of people, sometimes you get this fun visual. No, I did not have a fun. It was not fun. Like if I say if you
Yeah.
want to go do drugs in the woods, ayahuasca is not the fun drug you go do in the woods. I will say that. Not that that's what I had in mind, but that is not what you were getting into
Yeah.
when you. No, you
Yeah.
might have a fun time with mushrooms. You ain't having fun with ayahuasca.
And that's what I've heard. I've heard that what gets real really quick, and you see things, you deal with a lot of your demons very quickly because it all comes up and at you at once, and you have to deal with those things. I think we go through life a lot of times and we make decisions, good or bad, and when they're bad decisions, whatever that would be, all decisions are important, but I think sometimes we shove them away and we don't think about them and we go, oh, okay, whatever, I'm moving on. Well, what happens when you have to face them again? And ayahuasca seems to do that. I've heard that before. It brings up those things that you need to really, your shadow, those things you got to really work with. So, um,
Yep.
good for you for doing it at such a young age. Like, how old were you when you did that?
25.
Yeah, like that's not I mean, people do, but you do find a lot of people that are a bit older that tend to do that are trying to really find things. But I guess people do it. It's pretty young to be doing ayahuasca, but you know,
I, I I I didn't tell anybody either. I told my mom I was going on a yoga retreat, and
hmm.
I went and I did ayahuasca.
Wow. Well, so that did kind of, you made some big decisions in your life at that time. Here you are now getting into your breath work and working on things like that. This breath work detox seemed to be a bigger influence on you than even the psychedelics and things like that, though. It seemed like that's what you mentioned. And I'm
Yeah.
I'm curious a little bit about that. How can something that's just breathing influence us in such a deep way? Can you explain a little more and how that could help even the listeners listening in?
Yeah. So it's also similar to plant medicine, breath work, actually, but just by not doing an actual psychedelic, because you are tapping in to your subconscious when you are doing breath work with the type of breath work that it is. And it propelled me in so many ways. Like it brought out a new level of confidence in me, honestly. And I love it. It just I love it. It changed my life. Honestly, I don't think I would have even had the confidence in myself to go up that mountain and not even give outside of prior to doing breath work, because it was kind of funny. The guys up there were like, what the hell are you even doing in Utah at the top of this mountain? Because I was like, I'm from Massachusetts. And I'm like, what the hell is a little girl like you doing in Utah at the top of a mountain in a rental SUV? I'm
Right.
like, listen, I'm here to get certified in breathwork. And they're like, what is breathwork? I'm like,
Hmm.
well, it's similar to meditation. They're like, shouldn't that calm you? Like, you don't, this is not going to calm you. It's like, you know what? It gave me confidence, and I
Hmm.
got no fear in the world now that I'm dealing with this at the top of this mountain.
Right. Okay. So sorry. I'm just the way you explain things, I'm very visual. So I picture everything that's you're saying. So I'm seeing these things. And anybody out there that's
These
good
middle-aged men looked at me
visual.
like I was nuts.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I don't disagree with how they were feeling. I'm sure they were concerned probably about your mental health, probably concerned about other things going on, making sure you were okay. Do you know what I mean? Like because they probably weren't used to seeing that, right? Usually there are people on their ATVs going up this thing and you're
For
going
what
up
it's worth,
there.
we were up there for about 3 hours, and I was the only SUV that was up there in that whole time. We saw
That
one Jeep Wrangler, two trucks, and the rest were ATVs.
right. Right. So it's not a norm to see someone bringing that up. Yeah. So
No.
you did get the confidence, it seems like, from doing the breath work. Is that the main thing you would say that breath work did for you is build confidence? Did it give you insight? So you said it's like meditation in a way. Does it help calm you down and give you better decision making skills?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I've never heard of breath work till now. And I'm in
Really?
yeah, so this is all new for me too. So can you give me a little bit of like details the difference between meditation and breath work?
Yeah. So, meditation, I tend to say that meditation is more difficult for people who struggle with quieting their mind, because meditation, they want you to be sitting in your posture with your eyes closed and it's quiet and you're taking deep breaths. That never worked for me because my mind would never shut off. I'm thinking about all these things I got to do. I'm thinking about, my mind's just thinking. Whereas breath work, you're laying down on your back, there's loud music playing, and you're doing deep diaphragmatic breathing. So your mouth is open the whole time, and it's 3 breaths. So it's not, it's even the setup is very different. It's not your typical meditation.
Wow. That's interesting because as a musician, I always say music is my meditation because I have a very, very busy mind. Anyone that knows me very personally knows that this is why I do so many different things and wear so many hats. I'm very busy and I can tell you were the same way. So having music has always done that for me. So it's interesting that you have sound going, but you also concentrate on your breath. So that's an interesting concept and something I might actually personally look into a little bit.
Yes,
Do,
let me know. If you ever want to do a session, let me know.
yeah, I mean, it sounds really fascinating. Do people ever get you hear all the time people in meditation do have spiritual experiences at times. Can you have a spiritual experience through doing breath work?
Yes, absolutely.
So it kind of puts you into that same
That
calmness,
state.
that
Yeah.
same state. Okay. Have you had any spiritual experiences like that, or was that kind of we didn't talk about your spiritual experiences. Was that related to the you thinking you were gonna go over a cliff, or was that a different was that a different scenario in your life?
Um, so I mean, that even tied into my spiritual experience because I wouldn't have been in Utah if I wasn't getting certified in breathwork.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's brought so much spirituality into my life, and it's just brought me clarity. Like, because
Mm.
during breathwork, you can experience so many different things. Like, I'm a very visual person. Not everybody gets this with breathwork, but I've even seen things I need to do, heard things I need to do, heard things I need to stop doing, and it's really transformed my life. It's diff, some one time I was somewhere and it's like, Amanda, you gotta go. You can't be here no more. You gotta go. And I uncovered that in breathwork. So I
Wow.
left. Yep.
So it really helps you make those decisions that are holding you back. You're not getting distracted
Yeah.
because life is so distracting, right? So you're saying your breath work allowed you to kind of take that distraction off and you're able to see things clearly.
Yep.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
That's really neat. That's really interesting. I didn't even know we were going to go down this road. And I hope the audience, I hope people listening in are getting something out of this because there are a lot of people who struggle with meditation. I know it from just talking to people. Generally, the guests I get on this podcast, a lot of them have actually crossed over and come back and they tend to be good at meditation. They've really learned that spiritual side and they're able to calm their minds a little bit easier. A lot of them that I've talked to. So, but some of them will say it occasionally, like I still struggle with it a bit. And it sounds like breath work is kind of one of the answers to that. Through your experiences you've had, so you're saying the experiences that the spiritual experiences you were referring to at the beginning of the episode was you do get that through the breath work that you're doing, through these states that you go into. And they are different, obviously, from the experiences you had, say, as a child. You didn't know this existed. You didn't know how to tap into that inner self. And now you've kind of learned how to tap into that. Does that kind of resonate?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's changed your life.
Yeah. It has.
That's great. I get a little deeper in the spiritual side of things a little bit with this because I want to know your own thoughts on this. Going through all these changes in your life and changing from who you were before and who you are now and knowing that you can tap into spirituality and things like that. And do you have a fear of what comes after this life?
No.
You don't fear that? And why would you say you don't fear it?
Well, so I don't feel it because I know, I mean, I don't know what comes next, but I know I'm not going to live forever, regardless of whatever is next, whatever anybody believes. I know I won't live forever, but I'm enjoying and living my life while I'm here. And I'm okay with that.
And do you feel that we personally exist bigger than what this flesh and blood is?
Absolutely. Bigger than just my physical body. Absolutely.
Yeah. So in that sense, that kind of breaks some of the fear too, because you know that you'll exist beyond it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Okay. And one of the main questions I ask everybody at the end of each episode I talk to is I'm interested in your answer to this one. So if you haven't seen any of my podcasts, you won't know this question that's coming. So this will be more fun. Um, or have you? Maybe you have seen something, but I'm going to ask you, why are we here? Why are human beings put onto this earth? Why do we incarnate? What is the main purpose?
So I would say every individual human has a different purpose specifically. And I do believe every human has a purpose, but I think everybody's purpose is different. We're all here for a different reason, but I do believe we all have a reason to be here.
So everybody has their own certain purpose
Yep.
and it's all different between everyone. And you feel like you're in alignment with your purpose. You're moving in that direction right now.
Yeah, I am.
In saying that, I see all your purple. Purple is my favorite color. That's why back of my walls are purple too. It's a little darker back there based on my lighting in here, but purple is my color. And I see your shirt. Can you tell us a little bit about your podcast? It looks like you have I see the word podcast. So where do people find you and what is your podcast about?
Yeah. So I have a podcast called Manders Mindset, and you can find that on any streaming platform. But I speak to a wide range of individuals who have shifted their internal mindset, which has created an external shift in their life. And I love it. It's helped me learn so much as well. And just speaking with people who have shifted their mindset, because I've shifted mine in a lot of different ways. And I just want to help people be able to shift theirs as well.
And what is it called again?
Mando's mindset.
Manders
Mando's
Mindset.
my nickname basically, and mindset.
Nice. And is there a website for that or anything? Or is anywhere where would people contact you if they want to contact you?
And you can contact me on Instagram. Instagram is the Breathing Goddess, or I can give you my link to website that you can link in the show notes.
Oh, that's perfect. Well, I'll put it in the show notes and I'll put it on top there too. Um, but here's an interesting thing I want to say before I let you go. I've been really fascinated to talk. It's been fascinating talking to you, and now hearing about what you do on your podcast. because you're talking to individuals who have either shifted or want to shift or shift things in their life for the better. And a lot of the times I'm speaking with people who've had very either close calls with death, you kind of did, or people who've actually crossed and come back, and that shifted their whole mindset of life. Because when
Mm,
you cross and you have an experience, you come back, you can't question anything anymore. You're talking, seems like you're talking to a lot of individuals who are doing that while they're still here. And that's something that I don't bring up often on the show. And I really want to make that clear that, a lot of us seeking and listening to these episodes, you can do this while we're still here. You just got to get those, you have to kind of find yourself. And one thing I've taken from what you said on this whole show is that you found that through fitness. You found confidence first. That kind of led you in the direction where you went. And now look where you're at, right? So that's really good. That's
that's
perfect.
true.
If you had anything else you wanted to say, you can say it. But otherwise, I've really been happy to have you on. It's been a great conversation. It's the first time in a long time I've been laughing so much. I mean, with the serious content we talk about here on Soul Inspired, it's not always something to laugh about. So it's kind of nice to hear you give me something to laugh at. Yeah, I'm just glad you're okay. I mean, I wouldn't have been laughing if it wouldn't have turned out the way it turned out, but you wouldn't be here if that happened. So,
That
yeah,
is true.
right.
That is true. Well, thank you for having me. But yeah, if any of your listeners are interested in breathwork, have any questions about it, I would be happy to answer any questions. They can let me know.
That's perfect. Thanks again for being on. And I usually turn to the listeners, say, please like, share, and subscribe. That's the reason why we are moving quickly with this soul inspired journey. And until next time, I'll see you on the next episode. So